At exactly 2:17 a.m., a motion-activated thermal camera hidden deep in the Tasmanian wilderness suddenly woke up. There were no people nearby, no flashlights, no investigators, only silence. Then, something stepped into the frame, not running, not hiding, almost as if it had never gone extinct. The shape was impossible to ignore. A muscular body, a long, rigid tail, rounded ears, and a strange, deliberate walk unlike any animal living in Tasmania today. For nearly 90 years, the world has believed the Tasmanian tiger, the legendary Thylacine, was gone forever. Its last known survivor died alone inside a zoo in 1936. Or, at least, that's the story we've all been told. Because what you're about to see has divided wildlife experts, fascinated millions, and reignited one of the greatest mysteries in modern science. Was this simply another case of mistaken identity? Or did a camera accidentally record one of the rarest animals on Earth? But that's only half the story. Because while people are searching the forests for a survivor, scientists inside high-security laboratories are attempting something that once belonged only in science fiction. Not to find a Tasmanian tiger, but to build one. Using ancient DNA, cutting-edge gene editing, and technology powerful enough to challenge the very meaning of extinction. So today, we're following two completely different trails. One disappears into the cold darkness of Tasmania. The other leads straight into a laboratory where history itself may be rewritten. By the end of this documentary, you'll have to answer one question for yourself. Did the Tasmanian tiger survive? Or are humans about to create the world's first animal to return from extinction? Let's begin. For decades, the Tasmanian tiger has lived in two very different worlds. In science, it is extinct. A species officially declared lost after the last confirmed thylacine died in captivity in 1936. Case closed. But outside the pages of biology textbooks, the story never truly ended. Almost every year, hikers, hunters, park rangers, and local residents report seeing something they cannot explain. A striped animal crossing a lonely road. A long-tailed predator disappearing into thick bushland. A silhouette that looks nothing like a dog, fox, or wallaby. Most of these reports are dismissed within hours. Poor lighting, wishful thinking, or simple misidentification. And to be fair, many probably are. But every once in a while, a piece of evidence appears that refuses to disappear. One of the most talked about examples came from a thermal camera left alone in the wilderness. No camera operator. No dramatic zoom. No shaky hands trying to keep focus. Just a silent lens watching the darkness. Then, a large animal calmly walked across the frame. Its body proportions immediately caught people's attention. The long, stiff tail barely moved. Its back sloped gently toward the hips. Its stride looked smooth, controlled, and strangely familiar to anyone who had studied old footage of the thylacine. Within hours, clips of the recording spread across the internet. Some viewers were convinced. Others called it nothing more than an unusually shaped dog. Wildlife experts remained cautious. Because science demands more than a single intriguing video. One recording, even a convincing one, is never enough to prove that an extinct species has returned. Without clear DNA, physical remains, or multiple verified observations, no responsible scientist can declare the thylacine alive. And that's exactly what makes this mystery so powerful. Every new sighting raises the same haunting possibility. What if everyone is waiting for perfect evidence? While one of the world's greatest survivors is quietly slipping through the forests unseen? Because history has taught us something extraordinary. Animals have been declared extinct before, only to shock the world by reappearing decades later. So before we dismiss every strange shape in the darkness, we need to understand the incredible animal that vanished in the first place. And once you learn what humans did to it, you'll realize why the Tasmanian tiger became one of the greatest conservation tragedies in history, long before roads cut across Tasmania, before farms, fences, and cities transformed the landscape. There was a predator that ruled these forests in complete silence. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a tiger. And despite the nickname that survived for generations, it wasn't closely related to either. Its real name was the thylacine, one of the most extraordinary marsupials evolution had ever produced. At first glance, it looked almost impossible. The head resembled a wolf. Dark stripes stretched across its back like a tiger. A powerful tail helped it balance over rough terrain. And like a kangaroo, the female carried her young inside a pouch. There was simply nothing else like it anywhere on Earth. For thousands of years, the thylacine stood at the top of Tasmania's food chain. It hunted wallabies, small mammals, and birds, helping keep the entire ecosystem in balance. Healthy predator populations meant healthy forests. Nature had spent millions of years perfecting that balance. Then, humans arrived. As European settlers expanded across Tasmania during the 1800s, sheep farming became one of the island's biggest industries. When livestock began disappearing, many farmers blamed the thylacine. Whether it was truly responsible for most of those attacks is still debated today. But public opinion had already turned against it. Fear spread faster than facts. The animal was branded a ruthless livestock killer. And soon, the government offered cash rewards for every thylacine brought in dead. One skin, one skull, one body, one payment. Year after year, hunters set steel traps across the wilderness. Others poisoned carcasses. Some simply shot every thylacine they saw. Thousands were killed. Not because the species threatened humanity, but because people believed eliminating it would protect their livelihoods. By the early 1900s, sightings became increasingly rare. The forest grew quieter. The island's greatest predator was disappearing before anyone truly understood what was being lost. Then came the final chapter. In 1936, inside a small enclosure at Hobart Zoo, the last confirmed thylacine died alone after being left exposed during a freezing night. No mate. No family. No wild population waiting beyond the gates. Just silence. With its death, an entire branch of evolution vanished forever, or so the world believed. Today, the thylacine is remembered as more than an extinct animal. It has become a symbol of humanity's greatest conservation failure, a reminder of what can happen when fear replaces evidence. But here's the twist that almost no one expected. What if the story didn't actually end in that zoo? Because even as scientists declared the species extinct, people living deep in Tasmania kept reporting something impossible. They claimed they were still seeing striped predators moving through the wilderness. And some of those eyewitness accounts are difficult to explain away. That if the thylacine truly vanished in 1936, then why did the sightings continue? Not for a few years. Not for a decade. For nearly 90 years. Thousands of reports have been filed across Tasmania, and even parts of mainland Australia. Most came from ordinary people with nothing to gain. Experienced hunters, forestry workers, park rangers, truck drivers traveling empty highways before sunrise. People who knew the difference between a dog, a fox, and the wildlife they had lived alongside for decades. Many described the same details. A dog-like animal with unusually stiff movements. A long, thick tail that stayed almost perfectly straight. Dark stripes across the lower back. And a strange habit of pausing, silently watching, before disappearing into dense bushland. Could they all have been mistaken? It's possible. Human memory is imperfect. Low light can play tricks on the eyes. And once a legend becomes part of a place, people sometimes see what they hope, or fear, to see. That's why scientists remain skeptical. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A blurry photograph isn't enough. A footprint can be misidentified. Even a short video leaves room for doubt. To officially confirm the survival of an extinct species, researchers would need undeniable proof. Clear DNA, a verified biological sample, or a living animal examined by experts. So far, none of that has happened. But then something changed. Technology began searching where humans couldn't. Hidden camera traps, night vision systems, thermal imaging. Hundreds of silent electronic eyes watching the wilderness 24 hours a day. Most recorded wallabies, wombats, wild dogs. But every so often, one clip would emerge that stopped people in their tracks. A shadow with the wrong body shape, a tail too long, a walk that didn't quite match any known animal. But they have done something almost as powerful. They've kept the mystery alive, because every unexplained frame raises the same unsettling question. What if we're searching for an animal that has already learned how to avoid us? After all, the rarest predators on Earth survive by remaining unseen. And if even a handful of thylacines escaped into Tasmania's most remote forests nearly a century ago, could a tiny population still be hiding there today? It sounds like science fiction. But what happens next is even harder to believe. Because while cameras continue searching the wilderness, scientists have stopped waiting for nature to answer. Instead, they're attempting something humanity has never successfully done before. They're trying to reverse extinction itself.